In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, this is a draft stock post check. James Barlowe and I, we are going to share our thoughts on VJ Edgecombe, Boogie Fland, Egor Demin, and Tahaad Pettiford. Find out our thoughts on each prospect's draft status, draft range. Should they come back to school? Should they leave? Is their draft stock rising? Stay tuned. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day. I am your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my brother, James Barlowe. And this episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And if you love the Locked On NBA podcast, check out the Locked On newsletter that covers your favorite NBA teams to find out all the latest details from your local team or your favorite team. It is a source for league coverage and your local team. So check it out at lockedondaily.com. And if you're not subscribed to the Locked On NBA Big Boy YouTube channel, I'm not sure what is taking so long, why the hesitation. Check it out, subscribe, click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop, because we are dropping an episode 5 days a week. But again, make sure you like, share, because I'm a little biased, but we are your one-stop shop for NBA draft content. We are your source that comes at you 5 days a week. That's at the very minimum. And in this episode, we are doing a draft stock post check. We're going to talk about 4 freshman guards. They don't all play the same way or even play the same or even are the same type of guards. But we're going to share our thoughts on their draft stock post check. Let's start off with VJ Edgecombe. Now, James, we've been critical of VJ Edgecombe in the past. I know me, you, Leaf has had some strong opinions about VJ. Hasn't really lived up to the top 4, top 5 draft hype and buzz that he had coming into the season. We've chronicled his struggles against ranked teams, but he might be turning the corner. So my question for you is, with his recent play, and we're talking about VJ Edgecombe, freshman guard from Baylor, but my question for you, James, is, has VJ Edgecombe regained some of the buzz that he entered the season with? He's fresh off a 30-point game last night against Utah, I believe. No, Kansas State. 30 points, 8 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3, which is a good sign, but 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Baylor was missing a couple players, which opened things up for him. In your opinion, is VJ trending back into the pre-season hype and buzz?
So it depends on where you had him in the preseason hype and buzz. I had him inside my top 5.
I had him inside my top 5.
So my last mock big board that I had put out in January was I have him at 8. So I had him already trending in the right direction. Again, 8 because I had my questions, I had my concerns. I know some people had him higher, but I've had questions about his individual creativity, his handle, even sometimes his feel for the game. It had looked like the game had been slowing down for him even prior to this monster game against Kansas State. But the 3-ball is starting to fall for him, which is a really good sign. Yep. I don't particularly buy him as a top 5 pick, even though the projection, he's trending in the right way. I still feel like he has some limitations off the dribble. And even in the 30-point game, a lot of it was bully ball. And again, I'm first team pro bully ball, but at the same time, bully ball at allegedly 6'5" looks a little different than 6'8", 6'9", as some of the other guys we had talked about. But he's trending in the right direction. Again, 3-ball looks good. I have him at 8. I think, and I'll say it again, for somebody who has never listened to me talk about VJ Edgecombe, I think he's the guy you put around the guys. I saw somebody tweet about he'd be the perfect fit for like Charlotte right now. And to me, that would work for him to best utilize his skill set. But I don't feel like he's a top 5 pick because I still think he's not necessarily even a co-star, but like a high level, super high level role player.
Yeah, he's trending in the right direction. Again, I'll admit I've been very critical. It was just hard for me to unsee some of the very, very inefficient and just lack of production games that he had against ranked opponents. From Gonzaga, the first game, where the only bucket I remember was ducking on Mark Few's son at the end of the game, but the game was way decided by then.
They're gonna play that on draft night too.
They definitely gonna play it on draft night. But I will say that I have been impressed with how he's performed in conference play. And to me, conference play, I carry more weight on how you perform in conference play than I do in pre-conference, simply because the pre-conference schedule, yeah, you could have 3, 4 at best, like really strong teams, but you're going to play some directional schools. There's going to be some money games, and it's a good way to like boost your draft stock early. Mm-hmm. But I think conference play kind of separates the men from the mice, the dogs from the poodles. You got my hell rail.
But even though they played a strong non-conference schedule, so
they did.
I don't want to throw out like conference play being the only sole reason why, because, and we'll talk about Egor later, but like Baylor played some guys and he didn't look good, and that's why we had our concerns. But like you said, he's trending in the right direction. I think you had some stats for his conference play. What were they?
Yeah, in conference play, 16.9 points, 4.6 rebounds, 2.9 assists, 2.3 steals. But the impressive numbers for me are the shooting splits: 45, 38, 90 shooting splits against Kansas State. Again, 11 of 12 from the foul line. And I will say this, even though, somebody can probably clip up some of my comments about VJ Edgecombe and label me a VJ Edgecombe hater, that's totally fine. I was skeptical, still not 100% sold, but I'm trending back into, how I felt about him coming into the season. I will say this much. You can go back, and I have always questioned, was Baylor the right fit? And I've mentioned that he was going to be hard for me to evaluate because I saw how Keontae George didn't look like himself at Baylor. And if you look at Keontae's high school tape in Baylor, you saw he was a different person. And Keontae has, outperformed where he was selected. He was selected outside of the lottery, but I think in a redraft, he is a lottery pick. So I have been kind of cautious about being too critical on VJ because of the Baylor fit, where he's playing like the 3. And then they had some injuries. I think Jeremy Roach is hurt and maybe Langston Love is hurt, if I'm not mistaken. It opens things up. And guess what? He looked like the top 5 pick last night. Now, Kansas State, not a strong team. I think they're like 7-10. You got Coleman Hawkins making more than some whole schools NIL. But I will say that it was a good game. And if he can continue to have similar performances, I'm not expecting a 30 ball and 12 free throws, but he's definitely making it very likely that he creeps back up in my top 10. And I don't agree with you often. No, I'm messing with you. But I will say that I agree that Charlotte would be a really, really, really good fit for him.
And here's the thing. So I have him at 8, and I have him trending in the right direction. I can see a opportunity where he may go as high as 4 or 5, depending on the team, because we get to it. If we sit here in this particular draft and we say that there are for sure 2, maybe 3, let's say 3, like potential franchise guys, then okay, 4, 5, 6 is where you start to say, who can I get a high end starter from this group of guys left? And he looks like he could be a high end starter. So again, if you're Charlotte at 4, you don't want it before you want a flag. But if you get him if you have the 4th pick, and you're Charlotte, do you take him over a Jakob Jonas because you're already established at the point guard position? Do you take him over a Maluach? Mark Williams had 38 and 9 the other day.
I told you.
It's
I know you got to play, but Mark Williams is good when he plays. The
Yeah,
question,
exactly. So I mean, do you
you know,
entertain it? Like, let's say Mark Williams finishes out the season playing the games he is actually able to play, and not the tanking games, but like the games he's actually healthy and he finishes 20-10. So that throws out Molly Watch, we had talked about before. So there is a way where VJ Edgecombe can creep himself back into the top 5 play.
yeah, I feel like the draft starts at 4 anyway. I think 1, 2, and 3 are locks, but I've always felt that the draft is going to start at 4. And for me, you're probably going to see that 4 spot just. I mean, it's going to be so fluid. It's probably going to change from week to week, day to day. It's going to change a lot between now and the draft. All right. Draft stock post check. For me, VJ is trending in the right direction. He's rising, at least on my board. I will put him inside my top 10 on my last big board. I had him outside of the lottery.
I had him at 8, so I already have him. I'm ahead of the curve, at least your curve, Rob. So I have him trending up.
Yeah, I mean, of course, my stuff is fluid, but hey,
mine is too.
Those terrible non-conference games made it hard for me to put him in the lottery when guys had outplayed him. Right. Up next, we're going to talk about Boogie Fland. All right, before we get into the second segment, let's talk about our new sponsor, which is Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. Therapy can help manage stress, it can improve sleep, and it can help you communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into your busy schedule, now that could be a challenge. And that is where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is the leading virtual therapy provider. It makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and more importantly, affordable. And with Talkspace, signing up is very simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, and it usually only takes about 48 hours. It has never been easier to prioritize mental health. So if you want to match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter the promo code SPACE80 for $80 off your first month and show your support for this show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80. All right, second segment. Talked about VJ Edgecombe. Now let's talk about Arkansas freshman Boogie Fland, who is unfortunately out for the year with a hand injury. I don't know if this is good or bad for him. And the reason why I say I don't know if it's good or bad for him, because he really, really struggled in conference play. Really struggled in conference play. And maybe you can say if he played more games, he had a chance to pick it back up. But if he continued to have games like he had in the conference, I don't think that would have been very beneficial for his draft stock. Arkansas, they ended up winning last night, but they hadn't won. They were like 0-4 in conference play. Check out these numbers: 12.8 points, 4.6 assists, 3.4 rebounds. You'll take that. But 28, 27, 85 shooting splits, those are very, very difficult numbers. And this is just conference play, not the whole season. But those are very, very difficult numbers to justify a first-round pick in this draft class. I know Arkansas struggled scoring. I think the game has passed Coach Cal by.
I said that a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I mean, before the game, and I'm not a big like deep diver analytical stats guy, but Arkansas was ranked 91st in adjusted offensive efficiency. So they struggled to score. They needed Boogie to be a high volume shot taker, which you wouldn't expect that from, an Arkansas team that had, and I'm going to be generous here, a top 5 recruiting class and the number 1 ranked transfer portal class to have struggled scoring. But with that being said, Boogie really struggled in SEC play. And so it's like,
Raf, this is your platform. We gotta tell the whole story. It wasn't just SEC play against Baylor, 5-13. That's a power conference school. Against Illinois, 2 for 12 shooting. Against Miami, that was 6-13, but Miami is terrible. They were getting slapped by 40 at one point against Stanford the other night. Against Michigan, Boogie Fland was 6 of 18 shooting. So, with that being said, I wonder how he had surgery, and I wonder how I'll say this. I wonder how long his hand has been bothering him. But
that's fair.
That's what I want to know. Was it something he came into the season? Did it happen later in the season? I don't know. We probably won't ever know. But he's out for the season, and I really like Boogie Fland's game.
Yep. The whole, we talked about him a lot before the season.
Hey, I've been on record. I think that's Mo Williams Jr. I like Mo Williams, but the field goal percentage, the conference play, just really the games against teams that pay fat NIL checks, he didn't play well. And the most alarming stat, Ralph, that you forgot to mention, and again, could it be the hand? I don't know. But Boogie Fland was at 36% at the rim this season.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not going to cut it.
Well, we knew that he wasn't going to put a lot of pressure on the rim. We knew he was going to
struggle, but 36%?
Yeah, that means you're missing like almost 70% of your shots in the paint.
That sounds like if it's not a fast break layup, you're not making too many shots at the rim. So I really like Boogie Fland. Draft stock post check. Rafael Barlowe, you are in charge of the Boogie Fland campaign. Do you enter the draft?
Yeah.
Or do you enter the portal? What do you?
No. You enter the draft. You kind of ride the wave of the buzz that you had coming into the season. You blame the hand injury. You interview well.
You do the LeBron like this with the soft cast on.
No, you interview well. You shoot the lights out at the combine.
And sling on the bench if I'm Boogie Fland for the rest of the season.
Yeah, you definitely wear the short sleeve T-shirt with the big cast up to your elbow.
Right.
but no, I think he should come out. I think he should come out. I mean, I don't like. Well, number one, he has to come out because Darius Acuff is on his way to town.
Can I speak freely, Ralph?
Speak freely, man.
If I'm Darius Acuff, why am I going to Arkansas?
I mean, I'm gonna look at it from two sides. I'm gonna look at it from the side of if I'm Darius Acuff, and I know I am, and Darius Acuff is a senior at IMG. He has signed with Arkansas. If I'm Darius Acuff, I'm thinking like, I'm a confident scorer. I know I can get buckets. Arkansas struggled to score, and I know I'm gonna be the savior.
But at the same time, I mean, the coach is not coaching in the present.
But I'm a bucket getter, and this is what I'm thinking in his mindset. I'm a bucket getter. I see they struggle to score. I can help them on that. Now, if I'm in his camp, I'm like, hey, man, I think for Boogie, you got to test the waters. He can shoot. He does have a defined skill set that teams may be looking for. I think the passing numbers, to me, the assist numbers were better than I thought they would be.
He can run a team, too. I think he is a really good point guard as far as I think his feel for the game is good. I think he's a better shooter than those numbers are. Again, maybe it was the hand injury.
Nah, he was playing the dang three. They were starting.
I mean, he handled the ball a lot, though.
He did have the ball a lot, though, but I do wonder what does it look like if you play him in a more traditional role. I mean, I think he can play the 1 and the 2, but I don't think you put him in the best situation it's like VJ in a sense, when you playing 3 guards that are like 6'4" and under. And I think I even saw that Arkansas lists DJ Wagner at 6'4". But if I'm Boogie, this is just my gut. You test the waters, you enter the draft, and you enter the draft without the mindset of I'm coming back to school. I'm not going back to Arkansas for one. And I just think that maybe because he can shoot the ball, maybe a team he ends up like Nick Smith, in my opinion. Nick Smith
dropped to the second round, right?
No, he was 27th pick, I believe.
27th, okay. That's fair.
Phil, Nick Smith is just getting a little opportunity right now in Charlotte. So I think that it could be similar. Now, does he go in the teens and right outside the lottery like some people may have thought at one point? No, but I still think he could end up being a first round pick.
But at what point, this last thing, and it looks like the stock check for Boogie Fland is unfortunately, maybe it's down, but at the same time, it's not going to get any worse because he's not playing. But I wonder if he tests the draft and he enters the portal at the same time and he gets the feedback. And what if the feedback is 20 to 35? And at what point do you like, I can go get about 2.5. I can go get about 1.8 guaranteed in NIL money.
And Arkansas could be like, hey, we need you back. But if DJ Wagner is coming back to school, there's no way you go back. I'm not playing with DJ and Acuff.
I'm not going to Arkansas. I'm never going to listen. I'm probably
we might be banned in Arkansas.
Spring break, I'm out. The dorm is empty, man.
All right. Up next, we're going to talk about Egor Demin, and we're going to do a draft stock post check on a guy that was hotter than fish grease in the I guess the first 5 games of the season. And stay tuned. All right, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is Game Time. Now, me personally, I love going to sporting events, but Game Time has more than sporting events. It has music, it has theater, it has comedy, plays, and more. And now Game Time has made it easier to get the tickets to your favorite events with their new feature, which is called Game Time Picks. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste a bunch of time searching through thousands of tickets. I love it because they have all-in pricing, which will show you the total cost up front, so there are not any surprise fees at checkout. And also within the app, it shows you the view of your seat, so you'll know exactly where you'll be sitting. So you could take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. All right, last segment. I almost teased the whole segment in the teaser. Last segment, we're going to talk about Egor Demin, the guy that was extremely hot. I had him as high as like number 4 on one of my big boards. I want to say big board 2.0 or whatever. And it's just been a tale of those first 5 games and the second 5 games, and Egor is struggling. He's struggling. 7 conference games, 7.7 points, 5.9 assists, 3.7 rebounds, 1.6 steals, but 34, 11. You heard that correctly. I had to say it slow. 34, 11, 56 shooting splits. I'm just going to flat out and give you my draft stock post check right now. I think Egor needs to come back to school. I said it on a BYU or Utah radio station, so I'm pretty popular in Utah right now. But I think he should return to school. You get an opportunity to play with AJ DeBanza. You're going to be on TV all the time. You're going to have a really good opportunity to play with a dynamic scorer who can probably help your assist numbers. I imagine Kanan Ketchen should come back. I think BYU would enter the season as, probably a top 10 team or whatever.
Have to.
But you spend the season working on your shot. With Egor, he was always a player that the shot looks good, just the way it looks and the efficiency hasn't always been on the same page. This is dating back to his time with Real Madrid. And right now the shot isn't falling. Yes, I understand he was injured, and the injury, he missed probably like 20 days of action. I don't know how many games it was in between that time. And maybe he's not 100%, but at the same time, I just think he's really struggled with the athleticism, smaller guards. Can he pass? Yes, the passing isn't going anywhere. But to me, in order to maximize your playmaking than your passing, you have to be a bigger threat as a scorer. This isn't 1985. This isn't 1986. The best way to maximize your playmaking is you got to be either a threat to shoot or you know how to get 2 feet in the paint and make plays out of pick and roll. And so I think if the shooting numbers are better, if he improves as a shooter, he looks better as a passer. I know the 2026 class is strong, but to me, it's weird. Like you have guys that fall out of the lottery, fall out of the first round. I think he should just fall out of the draft and spend the whole summer working on his jumper and come back stronger. There's nothing wrong with being a 2-year guy. I know totally different totally different positions. Kel'el Ware is an example, man. Kel'el Ware came back as a sophomore, had good numbers. Still don't understand why he fell, how far he fell. But he's showing that the improvements that he made from his freshman year to his sophomore year have paid off. There's nothing wrong with being a 2-year guy.
There is nothing wrong with being a 2-year guy. You're absolutely right. However, I still feel like he should definitely test. I'm not 1,000% sold on him going back to school and improving because he's a unique talent. Him being 6'9" and he can pass. He's probably the best passer in the draft at 6'9". Broke jump shot and all, it's broken right now. But I don't think going back to school in a could be stronger draft, it would be the most beneficial thing to him. So with that being said, if he goes back to school, his 3-point percentage is terrible right now, right? But let's say he goes back to school and he shoots 28%. He's still 6'9", he still can pass, but does it look worse because he's playing with AJ, who's going to draw all this attention, and he's going to even be more wide open, and he's going to be missing shots, right? It's almost like his stock is going down, but I don't know if going back to school is the best thing for him because, again, he's a unique talent. He's 6'9", and he can pass. And at the next level, will he have the smaller guards guarding him because he struggles to kind of create offense, and I think he does lack assertiveness. I don't think to address the assertiveness, he's not going to get more assertive going to go play with AJ Demanson.
Well, you get more confidence in your second year, and I think if he's able to knock down shots, he's going to get some open looks from AJ.
He's getting open looks now. BYU runs a great system.
They run great.
He's getting open looks now. He just can't shoot. I understand going back to school, but I don't know if that's going to help him in a sense because I think like a scout or teams are going to look at him and say, you know what? He's 6'9". He can be a secondary playmaker. He can pass. I think we can work with him. He's obviously not, an aggressive scorer, and the jump shot needs work. Again, I feel like even with the shaky production, there's enough talent there for him to come out and still be drafted. Probably not in the lottery, but like at the 15th pick, Raf.
All right, the 15th pick right now is Orlando. Utah could have three first-round picks.
So you mean to tell me I think Utah let's say they end up in the teams with one of those first-round picks, I think Utah takes a long look at Egor. Not only because he's there, but again, we're stockpiling talent. He's 6'9", and he can pass. I know the jump shot is super shaky right now, but I just feel like there might be enough talent there for him to roll those dice and say, you know what, I can still go top 15, top 20. Because again, we know there's tiers. There's 1 through 3. There's probably 4 through 12, and then 13 on. He's as talented as anybody else in this draft. He just got to be a better shooter.
I don't know. I think go back to school. He can get a raise in the NIL money because
you can make a lot of money as a 17th pick too. Guaranteed.
You can make a lot of money as a 17th pick, but I would go back to school, improve in school, as opposed to going to the G League. So to me, I would much rather develop at BYU than develop playing for
I
the Memphis
disagree.
High
I feel
School.
like the arms race right now that we have for the top 3 pick is going to be just as strong next season. You got to think Phoenix can blow it up any moment now. Like they should blow it up. I
But
mean, I feel like it's going to be just as strong. You're going to have your opportunity. You could have an opportunity depending on where you land because, I mean, word on the street is 2026 draft is stronger than 2025.
2026 is definitely strong. But for a guy like him that's going to be able to command a lot of NIL money, if I'm not a surefire lottery pick and I get a chance to play with AJ, I'm going back to school in a system I'm familiar with, that I know the system now because I've played in it for 2 years, and I think I should be able to pick my spots. And I just got to be able to improve as a shooter.
Man,
All right, let's talk about Tahaad Pettiford. Now, this is a player that is under the radar in a sense. He's had some very, very big performances. The first one that comes to mind is Houston. Auburn is playing without Johnni Broome, the number 1 ranked team in the country. They play without Broome. They win 2 games. He has a big game against Georgia. He's not struggling in conference play, and the SEC is brutal. But for Pettiford, 14.2 points, and this is off the bench in less than like 23 minutes a game. 14.2 points, 1.8 assists, 1.6 rebounds, but 46, 48, 75 shooting splits. And he's had big games. Big game against Houston on the road. He had a big game against Iowa State. He was big in like the minutes that he played against Duke. I want to say 18 points in like 20 minutes, and Auburn's only loss was to Duke. The guy is efficient. He's getting buckets, and he's playing well. He's playing well on the number 1 team in the country. So for me, my draft stock post check for him is rising. Again, I know he's small. I know small guards are not the flavor of the month, but I like the production. I like the shooting. But similar to Boogie Fland, struggles a little bit in the paint. He's more efficient than Boogie in the paint. Again, I know they had totally different roles, but to me, Pettiford deserves more love, and his stock is going up, in my opinion.
I will co-sign everything you said. His stock is going up. I have seen on the tweets, what if his name was Tahaad with the shifts? Shout out to whoever came up with that. In comparison to Rob Dillingham, the biggest difference between these two, Dillingham was 52% at the rim last year in Kentucky. Pettiford is 46% at the rim.
Yep.
That's a big difference. 6% at the rim is huge. So to me, that's the difference between the two. And also, you look at the draft class versus 2024 versus 25. That can be the difference between being the 7th pick versus the 27th pick. So he's trending upward. But again, he's a small guard. Finishing at the rim is always going to be an issue for smaller guards. So he improves on that. He looks like a late first-round pick if he continues on this path.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good athlete. I mean, he's definitely shown like bounce and like transition. Seen him have a windmill dunk. Now, transition athleticism and half-court athleticism is totally different. Would like to see him develop like a really consistent floater to avoid like that contact, and just to avoid like the rim protectors. But he can shoot, and he's big. I was going to say he's got big nuts, pause. But he comes up big in big moments. Again, the Houston game on the road. Houston is a team that's known for the defense. He wasn't scared. Came out there, gave him buckets. Hey, Johnni Broome's out. SEC is absolutely brutal. And he went out and he gave Georgia buckets. I like him. And I have to factor in, yes, the numbers, they're similar to Dillingham's, but not similar. I mean, Dillingham's numbers look better. He's played more minutes, and even Dillingham's efficiency was better. I mean, Rob was impressive. Not saying that Pettiford should be in the lottery conversation like Dillingham. I'm just shocked that I don't see him on any mainstream draft boards.
It's a different draft, man.
It's a different draft, but out of all the freshmen that we've talked about in the SEC, he has been the most consistent in SEC play, the most efficient in SEC play, and he's doing it on the number 1 team. Now, his role is different than Trey Johnson's. His role is different than Jeremiah Fears, but I have to take into account number one team, even without their top dog. He took the keys, and Auburn was struggling to score.
The resume is impressive, but the one thing that he's got going against him is, and he's 6'1", and I have no issues with smaller guards, but smaller guards are like the new running backs, man.
Yeah,
you got to be unreal. So
yeah, especially with the way the NBA likes to switch everything. But his stock is going up, in my opinion. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast. Let us know your thoughts on VJ Edgecombe, Boogie Fland, Egor Demin, and Tahaad Pettiford. Again, check out the Locked On newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Once again, it's Rafael and James, and we are out of here.